Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Brendan. I'm here with John. We were going to get going because I had a thought while I was in the bathroom. I was taking a shit and I had a thought.
It's funny
Which
how that happens.
it is funny how that happens. But John wanted to say something.
Oh, yeah. Um, who was the most, who was the least guilty American president?
Who was the least guilty American president?
Lincoln. He was innocent. There you go.
Oh, man.
There you go.
Oh, it's so precious.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so we were talking about the last podcast we put out, or the last one. That was episode 30, by the way.
The best podcast we've
The
ever
best
done.
video we've ever done. And we were talking, and I was like,
we got some comments.
we did get some comments. What's going on in there? Because I personally, when we recorded this, I was like, I don't know about this. This is
You were
iffy.
livid.
Like, I was going off about shit. I was very frustrated. And
Yeah.
fuck.
So we got the comment, the double speak of politicians is one of the reasons that so many people love Trump. He talks like he talks and generally says what he means. And also he used to tweet funny, in parentheses, mean tweets. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then I've got a here we go again.
This could be that was the best video, but this one might be better.
It could be about to be the best. But all right, fair point. Great. We've got maybe a fair point. I don't know. The double speak of politicians. Now, do you think that Trump actually says what he means, or is he saying shit to get you riled up because he knows it works? Do you know the real Donald Trump? I suspect Trump is double speaking as much as every other politician.
I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't think so. No. I think he's more intelligent than he comes across, because he does seem to use the way he speaks. He rarely uses a word that has more than 2 syllables.
Do you think Donald Trump lies?
Sure.
That's double speak.
Okay. But everybody lies. I don't think he does the same. I don't think that he does the same degree of politicking, for lack of a better word, as most politicians, and certainly the way he comes across. He comes across as much more raw and unpolished.
Yeah, I think people are confused. Oh, okay, wait. I bet that people are mistaking Trump's blatant bluntness for truth telling,
honesty.
Because I wish I had a better memory, because there's stuff that he said, like pre going for president, and then after, and they're not the same thing. Contradictory shit. That's called a lie, people. That's flip-flopping. This is what I stand for. This is what I stand for. This is what I said. This is what I stand for. This is what, and they're not the same.
Well, I think the point in the comment is taken. Like, it is legit. Trump does come across very differently from basically every other politician. He has a totally different demeanor.
He does come across differently.
And that demeanor, for a lot of people who are sick to death of that kind of doublespeak is refreshing, or
Yeah.
at least they're like, well, fuck, at least he doesn't sound like all these other fuckers who have been fucking my life over forever.
Right.
And I think that's the comment. I don't even think that the person who wrote that comment was necessarily in support of Trump. I think he was
Right.
noticing, or she, that Trump doesn't sound like most other politicians.
Right. Now, right. If we get a finer lens and I get more honest with myself, if that is what was written down, then yes, Trump does not sound like the other politicians. And also, he doesn't sound like he does the normal doublespeak, but I don't know what doublespeak is. Like, what is the experience of the person who's commenting and they say doublespeak? It's
It,
probably that feeling where I know that I'm being bullshitted when somebody tells me something, especially usually if it's a politician. Oh, yes, we're going to do like that Kennedy thing that you had me watch. I'm like, yeah, he's talking the right talking points, but nah.
well, I think that Trump, when I listen to Trump, and I haven't listened to him speak much in a while, um, and I don't necessarily hate.
Can you
Uh,
put the mic closer to your mouth a little bit?
sure.
That's better.
I don't hate Trump. Maybe I've said I hate him. I don't hate him. I don't like a lot of things about him, but I don't hate him. And um, uh, but I do think it's depressing that he's so popular, because I think one of the reasons that he's so popular is because he speaks for fifth graders. Like, if you're in the fifth grade, I think you can probably understand pretty much everything he's talking about. Like, the way he speaks, it's dumbed down. It really is. And I think it's meant to appeal to a wide margin, and a lot of politicians don't speak that way. I think that's part of the appeal. Maybe I'm just being an asshole, but I do think that that's part of the appeal.
I think there's more than that. Like, yeah, it's easy. He's easy to understand. And like, that's a common argument. He speaks his mind.
He does. He also
But I don't know. Like, I heard an interview one time, and somebody that I think they got to interview Trump, and they were talking to him, and they're like, well, what is it? There's like a whole storm of controversy and blah 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 blah, and how do you feel about that? And Trump leaned in, he said, I am the storm. He
yeah.
knows what he's doing. And
He's
he's
a
manipulating people. Well, okay, every politician manipulates, but like I don't it's
You don't like Trump. You don't like Trump.
I
Why
clearly
don't you like Trump? So why don't you like Trump? What is it? What is your impression of the guy, and why does that make it
he
clear to
really,
you that he's a whatever he is?
if we compare, just here's a mind game for you. I don't know if people, I don't know what people see in him. He's not a good person.
Hmm.
If would I trust Trump to be completely self-serving. That dude does not give a shit about people. He gives a shit about himself. If we compare a Trump person, like a Trump, to a Bernie Sanders, and I'm not saying I'm pro Bernie. I mean, I am pro Bernie in a sense, like I agree with a lot of stuff that he's saying, but anyway, blah, blah, blah. I don't know about economic. Fuck it. Doesn't matter. Clearly, we see a difference between those two human beings. Bernie is clearly for people. He's not. I would trust Bernie to, just using that as a big contrast. I would trust Bernie to take care of others. I would trust Trump to take care of Trump. This is not a person I want running the country. Also, he's
So
way
selfishness,
selfish.
selfishness,
He's extremely
self-aggrandizement.
self-aggrandizement. He's a fucking asshole, and he wants power. The guy who I want running the country. Fun fact: I don't know if you know this. Do you know like Washington, George Washington? He's got a great reputation, right?
Heard of him? Yeah.
Why did George Washington have a great reputation? Well, one of the things that George Washington did was he took power, and then the people wanted to make him a king, and he said, "No,
Yeah.
I'm going to step down." And he stepped down. He's like, "Let's give this democracy thing a chance." And he didn't take it. And then people, oh yeah, that is a great thing. And then I learned later that he didn't invent that. That there's a Roman emperor back in the day named Cincinnatus. You can look him up. You know, think Cincinnati, Ohio, right? Cincinnatus was like an emperor, and then or no, I'm fucked up on the history. He was a farmer when Rome came to him and said, "We need you," and he didn't want the power. But he said, "Okay, Rome needs me." And he was a badass. And he went in, he did his job. And then, do you know what he did? He went back to his fucking farm. He didn't want the power. Yes. Trump, he is power hungry. And there's historical evidence of, if you look up, well, no, I don't know. You see, I'm so goddamn lazy. I don't do my own work. Here's some things I've heard. The same shit that Hitler did, the same shit that Stalin did, the same shit that people who have taken power, dictators, have risen to power, do the same shit that Trump does.
I would want you to
Same
be more
kinds of shit.
specific about that, man. Because,
Same kinds
like,
of shit.
you mean like breathing and eating and sleeping? Like what?
Like, we're gonna make America great again.
Okay.
We're gonna make Germany great again. We're gonna make blah blah great. Yes, I'm strong. And people rally around a strong leader in a time where they feel divided. And then that person finds a way to take control, and then bye. Trump would do that. The mind of that man would go there. Bernie Sanders, no way. Biden, no. Other Republicans, even, no. Trump, I'd put money on it. The dude is so self-centered. No. And people don't look at him that way. And they don't even see it. Like that's how, in that's how Hitler did it.
I don't think so. Trump is not Hitler nor Stalin.
Same playbook.
No, not same playbook.
How
Just
so?
about. I think that you have two kinds of politicians, more or less. You've got progressives and conservatives. So both of them are going to look at the present moment, whatever it is, as being inadequate. And they're going to look at the solution as being a return to the past or a progression towards some better future. And they're going to sell that as best they can, and they're going to sell that to their constituents, and then they're going to get into office and they're going to face the reality of having to work with other people and checks and balances if they're in a democratic system. Every president overpromises during their run for their during their campaign. They all overpromise because They want to bring people in on their side, and then they try to actually do the things that they wanted to do. Trump wanted to build a wall. He didn't build a wall.
Yep.
But that's not because he didn't want to. It's not because he lied. It's because he got in and he couldn't fucking do it. There were other forces in the government that were making it very difficult for him to do that. He still did a lot of work trying to secure the border.
Yeah.
But I think any conservative politician is going to look into the past and say, look, we need to conserve, we need to bring back the things that made the country better. We've lost something. They're going to say that in one way or another. So I think that
Yeah.
that's going to be the conservative playbook as, and I'm not saying that that's necessarily ingenuine or genuine, but that's going to be what you're going to hear from conservatives more or less. My favorite conservative politician right now is Vivek Ramaswamy, and he's hyper conservative. He's way more conservative than Trump, and much more clear. And I like him much better. And I sure as hell wish that he was running now instead of Trump. Um, but uh, but he doesn't. He doesn't. He lacks some things and has some things probably that make it so that he's less attractive. One is I think that he's more honest and direct and really clear, and he is very well educated, and he speaks like he is. And some people, that's going to turn people off for some people.
Right. And then, yeah, I guess one of my problems here is I haven't done enough of my own research, and I hate it.
I was
And
actually thinking about asking you about that because um, what would be hypothetically, because I think what we're faced with here is there's a frustration because we have feelings, we have opinions about politicians and politics, but when we actually try to talk about it, we're very quickly confronted with our own ignorance. And
yeah.
and I think to actually be really well informed about this stuff is like a full-time job. It demands a lot of truth seeking, fact checking, because everything's hearsay.
So
And
right,
then
then
you have to check so many sources and
back
so
to our
forth.
problem. It's like, all right, and then so if we I agree with you, and if we take that out to if we consider thinking even further, I don't have enough time in the day to fucking figure all that shit out. Like what am I supposed to do? Not eat?
Well, you're
Like
building a house and you're about to conduct an apprenticeship, and you're teaching martial arts and consciousness work, and
yeah,
you're doing
and
a lot of
that's
stuff.
how I have to do that so that I make money so that I can eat and pay bills and do all the shit. And so then
And
it's back to the original problem, which is we don't trust, there's no trusted sources of media really.
so what we end up doing is we end up going with the media sources that we jive with for whatever
But
reason.
then that's saying that some media sources we there's distrust. I think there are media sources that put out factual information.
Yeah.
And then the people, like usually, probably if you're a Republican, you don't trust the media because Trump started all this shit about fake news, which is not true. News isn't fake. People telling lies isn't news.
Okay.
And then so he's saying that he's debasing trust intentionally. And now I don't trust media. See, I'm buying into the hype. Then who do we trust? A lot of people trust podcasters. Like
Yeah.
people might have some sense of trust with what we're saying just because we're fucking people saying it. But am I holding myself to the standard of news, which like there's standards for something to be actually news?
They're
There
supposed to be.
has to be rigorous truth telling.
They're supposed to
Fact
be, but
checking.
supposed to be.
Yeah, like Fox News, it ain't news. It shouldn't be called Fox News. It should be called Fox Talking Points. See, and if other people do that, they also spout opinion like it's news. That I think is the problem. And then what, we don't question, like, do you trust me? Did you fact check my shit? I mean, I try to fact check my own shit because you'll hear me go off, and then eventually I have to throw up my hands and say, I didn't look that up. But
Hmm.
then why the fuck do I need to be looking up all this shit all the time, full-time job? Like, I'm not a fucking fact checker, so that now I'm just out of the loop, and everybody's out of the loop. And some people, it appears to me, are intentionally trying to make it so that everybody's out of the loop, so nobody knows what's going on, and there's massive distrust. I don't think this is the way to go, and I think Trump has a lot to do with that. And he did it on purpose. Why?
I I I would have to. Can I tell you my story about politics and my, like, where I moved politically?
Sure. And I don't even know if I want to talk about politics because I fucking feel like it's off track.
It might be. Let me
But go ahead,
let me briefly say
and then
this.
I
So
might just take it all this out. I'm just
so when I was in college, I voted for Obama. I voted for Clinton. Later, I got more. I voted for Bernie. I voted for Bernie in the primaries. I was basically on the Democratic side. Um, and then I voted for Hillary because, well, because Bernie lost the primary.
yeah.
So I voted for Hillary when Trump won, and I always watched MSNBC and CNN. Those were my main news sources. And my grandparents watched Fox News all the time. And whenever I would go over and visit, they would have Fox News on it. It always looked so stupid to me. It always looked so stupid.
Yeah.
Whenever I would hear it, it just the way they conducted themselves, the way they sounded stupid. And when Trump won, I was really shocked. I was absolutely shocked because everybody in the news reporting on MSNBC and CNN was saying that there's no way he couldn't possibly win. And after like literally a few weeks of like just like kind of walking around feeling like a little bit like I wasn't angry, I wasn't upset, but I was just like, how the fuck could I miss this? How could I not see this? And I remember thinking that Trump like won almost on accident, like he didn't even know he was going to win. Like he ran this campaign to just kind of like blow up his reputation, and then he won, and he's like, holy shit, now what do I got to do? I guess I got to be the president. you know
Right.
something like that. And what I started doing though is I started listening and reading um to people like Sam Harris, who's not on the right, but he has some views that some people would say are on the right. And for some reason, I went ahead and I decided I was going to go ahead and listen to Fox News for a while.
Yeah.
I just decided I was going to do it. I was like, what the fuck am I missing? Why is it that I didn't see that this guy was going to be elected? And I don't recall it really well, but basically I noticed after a while that there were things that Fox News was reporting on that MSNBC was not reporting on at all. There were things that Fox would talk about that MSNBC and CNN wouldn't touch. You would never hear them say anything about it. And I would like, why is this? And so I just started looking out slowly, little by little in different ways. And I was I would just as a layman, just on my own and not in any kind of disciplined way. Um, I started exploring other political views, and I got to the point where every time I would listen to MSNBC, I would hear nothing but lies. I would just be like, Jesus God, these people are so fucking conceited. These people are so arrogant. It's just disgusting. And I would feel the same disgust towards the MSNBC crew that I used to feel towards the Fox News.
Yeah.
But I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm not done. Hold on, because I kind of like went to the other side.
Yeah.
But as I continued to go, I started making distinctions that not all Fox News was the same. There were some people that would get up there and I'd be like, you know what, this guy's just inflammatory. And there are other people who get up there and they would sound very different. And I started listening to people who were way more on the left. Um, and slowly what happened was I've gravitated, my bias is that I gravitate towards people who have suffered. I gravitate towards people who have taken personal hits. They've been threatened physically, or they've been threatened legally. They've had their families threatened to bring whatever their version of the news is, they can. And I also gravitate towards people who are willing to talk to the other side, especially extremes. So I like Tucker Carlson because he is willing to talk to people on the very far left. He's had his family threatened and his house threatened by people on the left to bring what he thought was the news. He got fired from people on the right for reporting on things that they didn't want him to fire to follow up with, and I respect that. I also like Russell Brand. I like Brett Weinstein. I like people who have taken serious heat and who seem to um, uh, that's kind of what I trust. I trust like if somebody's willing to really risk their reputation or even their life. That's one of the thing about RFK. I don't know if you believe this or not, but um, a lot of people believe, and I think there's probably good reason to believe that the the government had something to do with JFK's assassination, and RFK is extremely against the way that the COVID vaccines rolled out. Now, whether you think that's good or not, he's got people in his family who've been attacked, assassinated, and when he says that he's willing to run for office, and he says he knows that he might get attacked, he's not kidding. It's not bullshit.
A whole bunch of his family.
Exactly. So I think courage is one of the things that I really pay attention to. And that's one of the things that I really liked about Vivek Ramaswamy. That's one of the things that I like about RFK, even though they're on opposite sides of the political spectrum. I do not think that at this point, having listened to a lot and not listened well, not listened with like a discipline or rigor, but listened to a lot of people on the very far right and very far left and middle right and middle left. I do not trust the central powers, and I think that the primary
What are
reason
the
that
central powers? What do you mean?
I think the mainstream media, whether it's CNN or Fox News, my sense is that they're basically two puppets working for uh, a system of control that is largely unelected, that is unaccountable, and that tries to get people to fight each other from the right and the left as much as they can over relatively trivial issues to distract us and prey upon us. You said last time, I think, if we, or maybe while we were talking on the phone, we could ask ourselves, where does the money go? Well, like, who benefited financially during COVID? Who benefits financially during the war in Ukraine? Who benefits financially during a given campaign? Who benefits financially with the
And
war in
who's
Gaza?
being paid by whom?
Yeah. And this is really important. And I think that those are the questions to ask. And what I find is that there are people who are reaching from right to left and vice versa, and they're finding a lot of common ground. Not everybody. There's a lot of people on the right who refuse to talk to people on the left and vice versa. But that's what I listen for is that kind of courage and that willingness to listen and converse and frankly to be a disrupting force, because I think that we're at a time right now, and have been for a lot longer than we know, where we are in a tyranny. It's just that they've gotten a lot smarter. No longer is it Hitler with like a big bombastic display. It's a much slower, more insidious way of controlling people's minds and getting people to lockstep. That's what it seems like to me. But I know that I'm being manipulated. I know that I have biases based on my own temperament. Like I have a tendency not to trust authority and
Right.
powers of so I may be getting played into that. Other people, they may feel very unsafe without a strong sense of authority. And for them, the mainstream narrative is going to be generally the one that they trust, and people who are too far out of that are going to be seen as extreme and conspiracy theorists and so forth.
Yeah.
And just to find, I'll stop right here.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have gone to the edges of the map on both the right and the left where I'm like, okay, you guys are just fucking out to lunch. Like it is just too
Oh
goddamn
yeah, the
crazy
far
for me.
left and the far right. Oh my fuck nuts,
Yeah.
dude.
And
Like,
also the far conspiracy stuff. Like
yeah.
there's far conspiracy stuff and left and right. Like it goes all the way
When you
around.
get extreme, it's extreme. Yeah, it's like a 3D. What's that
Yeah.
bell curve? But 3D.
Something like that.
It's,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how.
So I've gone off the edge of the map where I no longer feel comfortable hanging or talking with certain people. So
Yeah,
I've gone to
and
the
you
places where
see,
I'm like, yeah, that's too
I
much for me.
trust that. It's
What do you trust?
like because I know you and I know you go down all these rabbit holes, so I know you fucking looked.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Can we take a brief pause? I want to go get the charger for my computer.
Okay.
Okay, I'll be back.
Did you know the Teslas do not have a new car smell?
They don't?
They have Elon Musk.
Oh man. So I was thinking when I was out there going to get my charger. Or no, as I was coming back in, it occurred to me. So the last thing you said, you're like, I think we're in a tyranny that's more insidious. And then
Yeah.
so then the thought is, well, we need to bring the system down. We need to change it, right? And then so then that makes it clear to me that Trump would be the obvious choice because he looks like the best candidate to go in and fuck shit up.
He's in my opinion of Trump is basically that people on the right and some people in the center um do think that about him, and he is a disrupting force. I do think he is a disrupting
Yeah,
force.
that's all he does. He's a shit show.
I don't think it's that simple, but he is a disruptive force, and he's not towing the line. He's not a bought politician, and um that's why a lot of people go
Well,
for him. But
okay.
but unfortunately, he's not the only person who would be like who would who would be a disruptive force, and he's not he wouldn't be as he's like a blunt, he's like a bull in a china closet instead of, you know, a rational
Well, actually,
surgical. Yeah.
you can't say bull in a china closet or china shop because the Mythbusters. All
Oh
right,
yeah.
let's take a look at how assumptions work and how shit goes unnoticed. We say bull in a china shop, but then
Yeah.
the Mythbusters decided to actually put that to the test.
Yeah.
They built a china shop, they put shelves, and they let a bull in there. Didn't
And it's
break a
just
fucking thing.
That's awesome.
That thing went hauling ass through, nimble, just
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
didn't break anything.
Yeah.
So we can't say, so he's not, yeah, he's not surgical like that. But now, I thought to in an attempt to bring this back to something resembling why I created this in the first place, or podcasting, let's start telling the truth about stuff.
Like what? What stuff?
Let's our conversation. I have blatant feelings about Trump.
Yeah.
What's really going on there? Do I know for a fact what Trump is like? Well, I've seen his public facing persona, but have I met him? No. Based on what I see, does he look like somebody I'm interested in? No. Have I met him? No. Do I know what his money's doing? No. Do I know what he's really like in his private life? No. Do I think he'd be good for the country? No.
No.
Do I know what he would do with the country? I've got a pretty good idea, but I don't know. Now, the truth could be said the same way about everybody who's got problems with the left. Do you know what's really going on there? Do you know where the money's going? Do you know, like, is there anything that we actually know for sure?
So about Biden. So what do I think I know about Biden? So I think there was a lot of uh what are the things to know? And there's okay, bada bum. There's a war going on in Ukraine.
We can verify we're
We
pretty
can
sure that's happening.
we can verify that, and Biden has been pretty unequivocal about supporting Ukraine no matter what. And to me, this looks like another forever war. And by forever war, I mean like another Iraq, another Afghanistan,
Yeah.
another Vietnam,
Yeah.
which is an American war that is designed not to be won, but to continually make money for arms manufacturers.
Okay. Now, how do you know that?
I don't know it. I have listened to Russell Brand and Tucker Carlson
Right.
and others.
And you trust them to tell the
And,
truth.
and I trust them. And it's I've listened to people. I can't think of anyone right now who have been interviewed by Joe Rogan. I tend to trust Joe Rogan a lot.
Right. But do we fact check any of that? Because you made
I don't.
you made a
Yeah.
statement, and like I might even agree with the statement, right? But like getting rigorous here about getting off my ass to go look at stuff. But like you're listing names of people who, when you're like Sam Harris, Russell Brand, Joe Rogan, of course you're gonna think in the Republican direction.
But
Because those
also
people,
the Hill. Yeah.
yeah, like, and people who listen to that stuff go that way, and then trust. That's just what it looks to me like every time I see. I don't know. I just see like a clump of faint, Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan. Da, 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 da. If you listen to all these people, you're voting this way. Likely, Awaken with JP. I don't know. Probably. Like, oh
No,
no,
I don't like Awaken with JP very much.
yeah, I don't like him either for some reason.
He's I think his heart's
But
in
we're
the right place.
speculating again.
But yeah.
You see how easy? Okay, so I'm off track.
So
I'm
this.
off track again. It's
Okay,
like,
so yeah, where were you going?
Yeah, hang on. I'm trying to get somewhere here, and I'm sucking at it. You listen to these people, and I don't think that we're doing a good job. I don't think you're doing a good job. I don't think I'm doing a good job of separating opinion from fact. Opinion from fact, and we're not rigorous. What are the opinions and what are the facts? There's a war in Ukraine. Fact.
Yeah.
It is being designed to make money for, right, okay, the military industrial complex. Maybe factual, but do we know? Do you and I have personal experience? Do we know? No. We are going off of hearsay from others.
Let me say this.
Well, hang on.
Okay.
Hang on. Like I have heard, right? More hearsay that there was a president who warned another president, like back in the day, beware of the military industrial complex. Or like, you know, when you go buy parts for boats, they're extremely expensive, and you can go to an auto parts store and buy the same part for the same fucking motor at a fraction of the cost. I have heard that shit in the military, like if you get a certain bolt, it costs way more money when you could just like buy it somewhere else because of the way the system works. So there's a lot of money not accounted for. And this to me seems like the biggest hole in the what's missing from the reality, from the facts. There's a war in Ukraine. That's a fact. Where is the money going? Does anybody know? Somebody knows.
I think they do, and I think if
but
like
we don't.
but it's okay. Yes, I'm not up to it. But here, hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. Um, if you look at any given talk on Russell Brand, for example,
Yeah.
he will cite all of his sources. Everything that he's talking about is
Okay.
continually cited. He will show you the exact article that it's coming from, the exact journal, and you can look it all up. Same thing with other folks, you know, Brett Weinstein and Heather Hine. They're not officially journalists, but yet they're doing the job of journalists, and they are going to cite everything down to the last. A lot of these people are, you know, they're connecting their work to sources that you can follow up with. So it's there, like the trail is there, and we can spend the time to try to follow up with these people and to follow up with all of them. But the thing is, I think these people are filters. You're not going to go ahead and follow up with all of those things because it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so you're going to go ahead and go with the people that you trust on some emotional level. And I think it's useful to identify what are the things that make you tend to trust someone as they're portrayed. And it might be different for you than it is for me or someone else.
Then that raises the question of what trust is and how trust gets created.
Trust, believing somebody that's being honest, believing somebody is being honest.
But what's trust?
Trust is if I step onto a bridge, I think it's going to hold. If you tell me that you're going to be somewhere at a certain time, then I believe that you will. You know, stuff like that.
Yeah. So, dictionary definition of trust: firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. Relations have to be built on trust. Well, and then is that true? Do I trust that? What is trust? I don't.
Well, some things are verifiable in your own experience, or are they not?
Right.
What is trust to you?
Believe in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of I should never have trusted her. Archaic. Allow credit to a customer. All persons are forbid to trust sailors. Allow credit to a customer.
Yeah, I'll pay for it when I come back next time.
Right, like that, and then that's like giving a loan to somebody.
Yeah.
So okay, so now I feel like we're actually back on track in a sense, because now we're looking into something that seems more aligned with what I want, or what I want for this presentation that we're giving.
What
What is
trust?
trust?
Trust. I think trust is self-evident. Trust is it is the it's an activity. It's your context for someone or something is that it is trustable. It is strong. It
Trustworthy.
is what it seems to be. It seems to be authentic. It's got its integrity. If it's a person speaking and they're telling you that what they're saying is true, then
Yeah.
it is true, or at least it's not false. It's factually accurate. You trust their intentions. You know,
So then what? Yeah, I still don't know what it is. You know what I mean? Like, we're pointing at this thing.
how deep do you have to know? Are you looking for an enlightenment experience
I'm
about it?
looking
What do you
for
want?
like an ontological, just to know that we have an experience. Say if I walk across a bridge, I trust it. I'm trusting the chair that I'm sitting on is not going to break, like starting with objects. That's trust applied to an object. I don't trust it. I don't know about that. Or like if
Yeah,
so
I
the
don't. I don't trust. I mean, I think you do know what trust is because you're trusting stuff and not trusting stuff continuously, ongoingly, all the time.
yeah, but what I'm saying is like, for example, people live within gravity, but they don't know what gravity is.
But they sure do trust it.
They
They trust
trust
that
it.
they trust that
I'm
they're gonna
just saying
fall.
I think there's an insight, maybe an insight to be had on a deeper level about what trust actually is. It's like, but what is that? We could question. Like if we take trust for granted and we know how to do it, right? I trust you with certain things. I don't trust you with other things, like say objects or something like that. Or I trust that maybe maybe not you, no, maybe somebody we know, like,
Yeah,
which is funny because I talked to your dad and he's like, yeah, he's been losing stuff all the time for fucking
for
ever.
his whole life. Yeah,
But anyway,
that's true.
that's neither here nor there. And I wasn't saying that to disparage you. I was just saying like,
Yeah, there's certain aspects of
it's,
my yeah, for
and me
sure.
too. Like I have stuff where like I'm not as good at certain things, so you can't trust me with those things because my skills are lacking.
Mm,
But you can trust my lack of skill. That I
yeah.
can trust. See, but then now I'm getting more curious. And what is it that people trust about Trump? They must.
But why Trump? Like why Trump?
Well, because
Like
he's the one that I hate the most. But
oh,
then
okay.
why do people, and then we could do the other side. Like, why do people trust Biden?
Well, I don't. Does anyone really trust
Well,
Biden? Do
that's what
people
I'm
really
saying. You
trust
see, you
Biden?
don't because you're on the other side, quote
But do
unquote.
you? Do people really trust Biden? What do you trust Biden for?
Like
What do you
I
trust
I
him for?
trust that he's gonna uphold at least some semblance of sanity and the Constitution. Like he's gonna follow the
Okay.
law.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I
And
I okay.
now just bear with me here because
Hmm.
politicians do, in the background there's weird shit, but like I know he's not gonna just make a decision and kill people. He's not gonna go dictator, like I'm gonna control everybody. He's not gonna go down that road. I trust that about him. He's gonna be like a sane American. Now maybe like because I'm sure there's money and business dealings. I don't know what he does business wise, but as a person, my trust is like, yeah, he'll be like a you know, follow the Constitution. He'll have American values. He'll stand for that. He's not gonna take power and run with it. See, like I trust that.
I could counter that right now with stuff that's happening right now. The but you trust him for those
Yeah,
reasons.
but then why do people trust Trump, or why do they like there there must be some trust there. I trust he's gonna what? Why is
I,
there?
I I think we get okay. I don't spend a lot of time listening to Biden himself. Most of the time, if I listen to Biden or Trump, I listen to like a little sound bite that they say, or something that goes
Or
on
is
for
it
a few
about
minutes,
is or
and then listen to other people talking about them and what they said.
yeah, that's how that happens. We don't
And
listen to like the full, we don't hang out with these people all the time. Maybe I think here's a place where, speaking of trust, where I think Republicans have a massive distrust of the government is the Second Amendment stuff, because it looks like the government is taking away our ability to protect ourselves, like the guns. I would imagine that this is one place where people on the right have a distrust of the government. Well, the people on the left, they're going to take our guns. And so I don't trust you because there's a story and it's like that's the long game. I think the argument is something like every culture that has ever had their weapons taken away by the government has fallen to tyranny. Is that true?
I don't know if that's the story, but I can say that um,
Like, yeah, why
l-
do you distrust Biden?
I
Say
okay.
we're
So
on
right
trust
now,
here.
okay.
Don't
So
get
Governor Greg Abbott, um, just in the last few weeks, um, has started building a military base for the Texas National Guard on the border, and has um, also he and the governors of, I think now, more than 26 other states are petitioning in some way. I don't know exactly what the verbiage is there. The Supreme Court, because the Texan National Guard, and now other military forces from at least two other states, I think it's more than that, Missouri being one of them, are sending their troops to protect the border. Why? Because the border is being apparently, and I trust this because I've seen it from multiple different sources from the left and the right, including Brett Weinstein, who went all the way down to the Panama Gap to look at this, and he's seen huge numbers, hundreds of thousands of people crossing, including tens of thousands of Chinese people crossing to get into America. And these people are, yeah, they're undocumented migrants. They're illegal immigrants. And according to another news article I saw, I believe that was on Russell Brand, I can't remember, but in December alone, something like 300,000 immigrants were arrested in 1 month. And so
yeah.
the numbers must have been easily double that of people that are crossing. So you're talking about, in just the space of 2 months, more than 1 million people crossing illegally. And the federal government, according to Greg Abbott, is not only are they not enforcing the border when they have the legal and constitutional right, duty, obligation to protect the border
Yeah.
from illegal immigrants who are being controlled by the border itself, apparently has been ceded control of to the Mexican government, which is deeply embedded with drug cartels. And now the amount of fentanyl that's going into the US has
Where
skyrocketed. And what I'm getting at is that President Biden is allowing for this, and he is actually ordering troops to dismantle and take apart their efforts by the state level. So in other words, the state level is trying to enforce the border, and the federal government is ordering them to stand down. And the Texas government is saying that what they're doing is anti-constitutional. That Biden and the Biden administration are in direct violation of the Constitution, both because they have a right, they have an obligation to protect the border, and because they're denying states their rights to protect their borders. And
yeah.
Abbott is not the only one. 25 other governors, more than half of the union, are agreeing with him. So I would challenge what you're saying about Biden being someone who is always going to follow the law. Apparently, more than half of the country's governors think that he's in direct violation of the Constitution, to the point that they have to send letters to the Supreme Court, and several states are sending military to actually enforce the border because the federal government is not. And I don't trust Biden or Kamala Harris or a lot of people on the Republican side either, because I think a lot of these people are essentially bought and paid for politicians who are going to continue the status
Bought
quo
and paid for by whom?
by a bureaucracy that is unelected. The majority of the government these days is far, far and beyond
But
unelected
who's the
bureaucrats.
money?
The money are the who is the money?
Where's the money from?
Where's the money?
Taxpayers?
From taxpayers, from banks that create money,
And
from
who's
war.
directing where the money goes?
I think it's very complicated, and I don't know, but I know that.
Back to the money, people. The money.
So we should be following that. But I don't even think it's just all about money. I
Well,
think it's about power.
yeah. Well, I mean, money is like in this case,
It's one form of power, and a very
in a
important one.
sense, yeah. So it's like it's money. Money doesn't technically, ontologically speaking, money doesn't exist. It's just paper, or it's a number. It's an
Yeah, but neither do
agreement.
words, right?
Yeah. Anyway, that's just a sidebar. My point is, we're back again to we don't know where the money's going.
Well,
But I want to get
what
back
you
to
were saying with the trust, yeah, trust
because you hear these things and
from
because
multiple sources,
yeah.
and I've seen them. It's
I'm
not
not
one
saying I'm not
avenue.
saying it's not happening.
Okay.
You have distrust. You
I
don't trust that Biden
yeah.
has the interests of the country in mind because he's doing all this shit. What about I hear tell that there was a bill that was going to close the border down.
Yeah. I think that he's been receiving
Why did
a
that
lot of
get shut
pressure.
down? You know, Trump shut it down.
Trump shut down the border to close.
No,
Trump down.
the bill. Trump
Yes.
was responsible
So
for saying no, don't make that bill pass.
yeah,
Why?
because I believe it's been this way for a while. The what do you call it? The Patriot Act is a good example. After a disaster, the the powers that be, and it could be a Republican like Bush or someone like Biden, they use a disaster like COVID-19 to increase governmental control with new powers. And so the idea is you create a crisis, or you take advantage of a crisis that's already existing, and you channel that into the need, the perceived need for increased governmental control. And so it's absolute bullshit that the federal government does not have all of the available authority to close down the border right now. They don't need a fucking bill, Brendan. It's the border of the country. If you can enforce the border in Ukraine, you can enforce the border in fucking USA. That's simple.
How come they didn't? How come
Because
they're not doing it?
because you because the administration that wants a new law and new powers, when it already has the ability to control the government, doesn't to control the border, doesn't really want to control the border. They want new powers, and they can use those powers later, as they did in the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act gave the government enhanced ability to survey the American people. It gave enhanced ability to arrest American people, and it uses those powers still.
Who's the government?
The government, yes.
Which
The
is
federal government.
elected by the people.
The fucking FBI is not. The CIA is not. The Pentagon is
But
not. They're
who
not elected by the
decides?
people.
It's created by the powers that be that were elected by the people.
People elect politicians. Politicians are embedded with money, with people that have what do you call it? With lobbyists. Lobbyists can come from anywhere,
Okay, so
including
now
bureaucratic systems
again
in
we're
the
back to
government.
the money.
But it snowballs. It's way beyond the politicians because this shit has been going on for a long time. When the
So
United
this
States
seems to be
started, the federal government was small, and now it's more than 50%
and the
of the GDP
population, and what's the population? Oh, money
of the
wise?
yes.
Oh,
It
okay,
used to
so we're
be less
back
than
to money
10%.
again.
But what I'm saying is most the number of representatives and legislators has not grown significantly. But the government has grown by many factors.
Yeah,
That's
there's
almost all unelected officials. Almost all. There are cabinets and bodies and boards of special interest groups.
why do we keep going toward the complexity then?
Uh,
And again, it looks to
mm,
me like again we have a huge lack of clarity because you've just said a bunch of stuff which
Maybe there's
okay,
something to it. Maybe there's nothing to it. Yeah.
right, and what's actually true, like I haven't done the research, I don't know. And what I do know is we still don't know because it seems like the things that you can't fuck with are money in this case and power.
Well, what would be the
And
benefit of allowing millions of undocumented migrants into the country? What would be the benefit?
don't know.
Well, one thing would be you could allow them to vote for your party. That would be one thing.
Right, and you see, and then that's back to like money and people wanting power. And then like these stories are like the talking points that I hear. Oh, this is why this is happening. I don't know why things are happening.
Hmm.
I do know what I can say with certainty is we don't know where the money's going.
But we can
Nobody
probably
knows.
find out a lot.
Nobody knows, and nobody's reporting on where the money's going.
That's not true. That's not true. We can find that
No,
out.
no, no,
That's
no.
not true.
I'm saying this is we don't know how it all works.
Maybe not all of it, but you can definitely get good images.
What I'm saying is
You and me.
I think we're in two different domains again. I'm trying to go more consciousness or trying to go more clarity, and I hear you. I'm not
Hmm.
trying to shut you down here. I'm not trying to shut anybody down.
Okay.
I'm trying to make a point that we collectively don't like. Here's something I've learned from doing business, right? Or real estate stuff. You know, I dabble in real estate, and there's a whole world out there that we don't talk about, but that's how the shit actually works. Like when you go into a Starbucks, you get your coffee, you get your stuff, you leave. That's what you want. But what makes Starbucks work? We don't know because we don't look at, if you want to look at a business and you want to know if a business is doing well or not, do you look at the storefront? No, because you look at the books. The books will tell you the reality of how that business is going. What's that? It's a bunch of fucking numbers on a spreadsheet, but those numbers are representing something. Money, things could look or like for example this anecdotally this I used to post real estate signs. Another story. And I got this one house where this got in beautiful neighborhood, suburban, upper middle class, everything looked fine, but they were about to lose their house. And you can't tell that by looking at the house because the house looks fine. It's just there. But the money, these people had all these problems. The guy was a drunk. I mean, I did see some evidence because I went in the house and there was like a couple fist size holes. I'm like, okay, this guy's a violent drunk. Not good. Things were a little too quiet. There was a kid in there. I felt really fucking bad for the kid. Like it was just fucking weird. And they're about to lose their house because the guy was nuts. You know, he was not mentally stable. But the reality is the money tells a different story. And what I don't see in the news is Did you know that so and so got paid by so and so, or we followed a money trail from here to there to there to there to this to that shell corporation? Do we know
Right.
who's lobbying for what?
Yeah.
Nobody. We just,
And
that's
no,
all.
that's
Nobody
okay.
knows that
So
shit.
what I'm trying to say is that's not true. Not nobody knows that shit. People do know that shit, and you can find out that shit, but you're not going to hear that shit on a
The
lot of the
general.
mainstream media.
This is what, no, this is what I'm saying. That's what
Right.
I mean. Okay, let me clarify. When I say nobody, I mean in the mainstream media, it's not there.
Yeah, but if you look at, and I'm not saying you got to support Russell Brand, but if you look at Russell Brand, he's going to be citing exactly that kind of information. If you look at Brett Weinstein, he's going to be citing exactly that kind of information. And you can research it yourself because links
Mhm.
are provided. You can start looking into that
Is he
stuff.
talking about the money?
Yeah, they fucking talking about the money and where it goes and to whom and when and why. And yes, some of it is obscured, okay? But to the extent that they can get clear about it, they do.
I think the mainstream media should have a news arm that is just
The
who's
mainstream
getting paid
media,
by whom.
the mainstream media is not media, dude. The mainstream media is not there to inform you.
Well,
I do
that's
not think so.
right.
I
That's an
don't think,
opinion.
yeah, but if you continue to look into it, I'll bet you'll come into the same opinion. I'll bet you will. If you start looking,
And that's the
it,
thing. Am I going to do that? Probably not.
okay, but if you started really looking, like this question of where the money goes, if you do that research, and I'll bet you anything, you will trust the mainstream media, the left and the right, far less than you currently do.
Yeah. So then, what's the solution?
This conversation is helpful. I mean,
How?
getting up off our asses. More people. I don't know what the solution is, but more
What are,
people need to become more conscious of, and I don't mean like existentially
yeah.
conscious, but more people need to become more aware, let's say, of where the real power is in a situation
Yeah.
globally and nationally and locally, like you said, like about that house. On the surface it looks fine, but then you go in, you look a little bit, you see evidence, and then you look on the books, and then you're like, holy shit. and
Yeah.
and people need to become more aware of that. And how are they going to do that? Well, one thing that will help them is becoming more conscious of themselves and their own biases and their own emotions and their own psychology and their
Right.
own
Yeah.
mind,
That's one.
because they're
That's
less
one.
easily manipulatable. And then
Yeah.
another aspect is to, because it's true. I mean, if you're doing a lot of consciousness work, it is more difficult for people to manipulate you after a while, because you yourself are becoming more aware
Yeah.
of
Or I
yourself.
understand how my own mind works, or I can think, like think critically, or question at things, or wonder about things, or want to get to the truth of things,
Yeah,
whether it feels good for me or not. Because as much as and maybe even also to separate my reactivity from the truth, because there may be something that is true, and then I react to that in a way that's like, fuck that, or oh goody, or I want that, or I'm scared of that, or whatever. But it's still what's true, and my reaction is my reaction, and those are not the same thing.
and you have some ability to recognize that. So I think that that's super
Yeah.
important for people to become more aware and conscious of themselves and their own makeup and nature. But it's also important, if you're going to be concerned with world events, to be concerned with world events and to actually
And be
do some
informed.
research.
I think that would be a thing, like to and be informed. And then I still run into a challenge in my mind where then who do we trust and how? So it's like,
You have to triangulate. You have to use the principle of triangulation.
yeah, maybe that's,
You
yeah,
have to. You
because there's no way I, without a team, can actually get that amount of knowledge disseminated, because there's too many people and there's too much knowledge. It's too much for one mind, right?
find people who disagree about things that you consider important, who agree on other things that you consider important, who can talk to each other, and who are have personal stakes in the game. Like they're in danger in some way. They've faced
Like they've got some
serious.
skin in the game.
They've got skin in the game. To me, I don't know about you, but I trust people with skin in the game more than I trust people who don't.
Yeah.
Because people can just
That
talk, but
yeah, a lot of people just talk like what I'm doing.
why was Jesus Christ trustworthy? Well,
he was
he
willing to get nailed to a cross for his shit.
yes, exactly. And why were the founding fathers of the country trustworthy? Well, they all signed the Declaration of Independence, and if they were caught, they were going to be hanged. They were going to be hanged. Yeah, they were going to be hanged.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that we consider them to be great, even if some of them owned fucking slaves. We still look at that and we go, you know what? They still had some integrity.
Right.
And it's true. And
so then it comes down like so I'm seeing integrity is a thing, and I think underlying a lot of this stuff is we can discover or become conscious of or become aware of principles that work or that are powerful and discover that. Oh, a bunch of these men had integrity. I trust that. So then there's something about integrity that seems workable, good.
I have
And also
listened.
integrity doesn't need to be confused with good and bad. Sometimes we do that. Like, oh, integrity equals good. Integrity just means
Yeah,
because
there are people of integrity who disagree with what I'm saying.
Or people of integrity that do bad shit.
Yes, according to me.
And others. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I imagine, Hitler probably had some integrity.
He had to. He ran a nation.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to make the trains run on time, and he makes the trains run on time.
If we were going to ask existentially, what is trust? When I think we're talking about objects, we're talking about one kind of trust. We're talking about physics, we're talking about another kind of trust. We're talking about people, we're talking about another kind of trust.
Yeah.
And I think with people, seeing evidence of another person's commitment.
It's words and actions, as far as I can tell. There's nothing else that allows us to trust people. It's like what we say and what we do.
Yeah, when they line up and I think there's that third thing. There's that risk. Like when you can tell that they're risking something.
And you know that via their actions.
Yeah, you know that via their actions.
I'm just saying, if we distill it down to something that you can't, it's like at the base, it's words and actions. Because if I just, like, how do you know a people? If I just sit here and don't talk, you don't know anything. And then I open my mouth, and then you're like, oh, that's what, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about trust as it relates to people in politics. Yeah. And that's seriously, we're talking about trust as it relates to people in politics.
Right. And it's words and actions.
Politics is like where politics ends is where war begins. And I think politics is the talking before it turns into fighting.
Yeah, you mentioned that in the last. You heard that from somebody?
It's just I think I heard it from somewhere, but it makes sense to me. It's sort of like the NVC principle. It's like as soon as you stop communication, you start manipulation. As soon as you stop manipulation that's social, you go into manipulation that's physical. It's like two people with two agendas. Once they become oppositional, there's only so many ways they can work that out.
With power, right?
Like, exactly. War, power, politics. It's kind of all the same thing. It's just different vias, different methods of getting the job done. And you're talking about trust. Well, what do you trust in war? You trust George Washington because he was courageous and willing to go home to his farm. sort of like Cincinnati, Ohio, Roman
Cincinnatus.
emperor, Cincinnatus. You trust certain soldiers and generals because of their courage, because of their loyalty,
Yeah.
because of their honor.
And then you know this via words and actions again.
But they could be on different sides. You could
Sure.
have
And you
people on
also
different
trust
sides.
you need to have trust in your weaponry and trust in the supply chain that is going to back you up and bring you supplies. And
Yeah. So when you're watching MSNBC and you're listening to Rachel Maddow, and I'm not saying you do, what is she risking? What courage is she showing? Where is her honor? When you look at,
are you insinuating that she has none?
I'm saying, where is it? Does she have it? Can you see it by her words and actions?
Well, she might not be sharing the amount of threats that she gets for what she does, and I don't know if that's the case, but I would imagine.
I don't know either. Okay, I don't know either. But those would be some things to maybe look at. It's like the people that I'm listening to, how courageous, how honorable, how much integrity do the people that I'm listening to have, as best as I can tell.
Yeah, and then oh, so you're talking about that in terms of trust?
As a principle for listening to, for trying to discern things about the world, we were talking about trust. What is trust, and how do we understand? As I understood our conversation, how do we make sense of, you know, a world where we don't necessarily trust the media or what have you? What would be some criteria to trust? And
Yeah.
I'm suggesting that we
Well, I
look at
mean,
the people we're
trust.
listening to, we look at their integrity, their character, their honor.
Yeah, they're yeah, and then so we'd have to look into these things and have some idea that those things are factual
Hmm.
because yeah. We need factual shit.
Yeah.
It needs to be real.
So yeah, I imagine we could find the
So then
the
what's real? What's
okay.
factual? Now we're back to the beginning again.
We don't know what real and factual is.
We don't know the facts, and we need the facts. If we don't have the facts, if it's not based in reality, it's not workable. Then it will be based in non-reality.
Yeah, which could be workable for someone else. If I want to take advantage of someone
Yeah, if you
in a
want, and I think because I think I had a realization a little bit ago where there's like these two different worlds. Like, I just saw a world come through where, like, it's total like Salem witch trials. It's just this total conceptual overlay, religious. There's women, they're witches, they need to be burned. And it's like a mass psychosis.
which happens.
I think that is happening now.
How, when, and where?
I think it's the possibility of, well, in many different ways. I don't know. I just got this like, imagine a world where you're a woman, you can't have an abortion because it's a law. Imagine a world where gay people can't get married because imagine a world where Yeah, it just gets tricky. Like people can't express themselves, where you can't go in the street and talk bad about the government. You know, like you can't draw pictures of Muhammad,
for example.
for example. You can't, that
Well,
world,
we don't have to
or,
imagine that world. That is this world. And you can find examples of that sort of
right.
all kinds all over the
This
planet.
maybe speaks to my thing. It's a mass psychosis.
Is it all a mass psychosis, or is some of that actually functional?
Right. Well, I think some of it's functional, and the stuff that's functional like relates to physical reality and the principles that govern physical reality, like physics or science.
Hmm.
And science is a rigorous way of thinking, essentially. That's what science is. The scientific method is very simple. You know, you put a hypothesis, you test it, you get results, and it has to be repeatable. And when we don't do that, then we're not being backed up, in a sense, by objective reality. And I think a lot of what's going on is influenced by a conceptual overlay that doesn't match physical reality. Like there was a guy that ended up in a pizza shop with a gun looking for the cellar where they were having kids. Do you remember the pizza shop incident?
No.
There was a conspiracy theory, QAnon, like
Oh yeah,
QAnon
yeah, yeah,
shit,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
he ended
Yeah,
up in a
Pizzagate, Pizzagate.
Pizzagate.
Yeah.
That is psychotic. And there are large groups of people, as far as I can tell, that enter this same psychosis, this same mental, and it's all conceptual, no basis in fact whatsoever. And there are entire groups of people that do that. See, and that's insane. And it looks like it's possible for large groups of people to go insane and share the Kool-Aid with one another. And I think that doesn't work. It
For what?
works for what it works for. It works to have people delusional. And this is something that we can do as humans. I mean, just look like religion. All religions are like that. It's like it's a conceptual, it's made up shit. It's made up. It's literally made up. It has no basis in physical reality. It's somebody made, they're like, this is the way the world works, and it's made up. This is why science and religion don't really mix. And if we keep going down these other roads, then we will have those results relating to a made up thing as if it's real. Now, ontologically speaking, we can get even worse with that, because at the end of the day, we might be making objects up too, but that's harder to see.
Yeah, far less practical.
Yeah, and very not practical. But if we all at least have some agreement on objects, then we can have a base in which to then proceed. But if we can't agree about base factual information, then we will not agree about base factual information, and we will be at odds at a core level. And I think that will not help us get united, which is my desire, for us to work together rather than work against one another.
Do you think there is any weight to the argument that conceptual activity, myths, and even you could say, lies, so to speak, because they're not purely based on physical reality.
Yeah.
Um, are have a reality in the sense that they are evolutionarily adaptable or adaptive. So, for example, um, uh, you know,
I'm not
uh,
sure what your question is.
yeah. So, like the idea of the family structure. Okay, the family structure is that moms and dads and children live together in the same house, and there's a certain family structure, like the parents have authority over the children. There are certain rights and obligations that extend from one family member to another, and all of this is, in a sense, made up, and
Yeah.
it doesn't exist in physical reality.
Right.
However, without such structures in place, the
Chaos.
adaptability of for the biological entities, for the human beings, is null.
What
Like
do you mean by
their
the
survivability,
adaptability? Their
meaning
survivability.
their survivability, exactly.
Yeah,
Like
wouldn't work.
human beings need, we don't need them like we need lungs, but we need them like we need um
In Yeah,
awareness or something.
in
We
order
need them
for
like we
us
need
to work
perception.
together with
Yeah,
some degree of cohesion,
we
there
have to have archetypal. I'm going to say archetypal because they're universal. They repeat. You can see them in every society. You can see them across cultures, and where you don't see them, the cultures cease to exist, or like they break down. Societies break down and
right, well,
they cease to
culture
function.
itself looks like, there's different cultural structures. You need the structure, otherwise there's no structure.
And not only that you need the structure, otherwise there's no structure, but
Just existentially, it needs to be there.
there are some structures that are more necessary than others, like that.
Sure. You could say like like a house needs a foundation
Yeah, but we're talking about things that exist outside of physical
conceptually.
reality. Yeah,
Yeah, we need
yeah,
conceptual foundations.
yeah.
Seems to be the case, yeah. And if we
Okay.
dig deep enough, you can unearth these foundations, but that's the core shit, the stuff that we agree on at a core level, like, coming from a workshop, and Peter's mentioned, like, we don't kill each other. That's just like a base fact, isn't it? And that's
Usually.
the, right. Like 90%, 90, I don't know what the percentage is, but we don't kill each other. Unless we're at war, then it's okay. But if we're not at war, you and I, we meet each other, we generally don't do that. Like across every culture, all humans.
Hmm.
Interesting. That's base. That would be a core structure. And maybe some biology in there too. I don't know. Um, we all have language. Interesting. That's core. See, you can't, across cultures, across all people, we've got language going on. That's everybody. This, again, core structures. And you can look into it and discover that, oh, it's actually made up. That's fascinating. Incredibly powerful, too, but we don't look at that. We just operate within it. We rarely recognize it. But yeah, sure. We need the structures. Otherwise, we wouldn't have them. We'd be more like, they say, if we took language away, we'd be more like animals, wild animals. No language, just raw.
And not very good ones either. Like human beings
Oh
without
yeah, yeah.
language,
We get a
we
lot of power from being together. We can,
and we're
like, we
well, and
dominate as a
but
team.
but we're shit on an individual level. Like
Likely,
you
yeah.
compare a human being to a puma or
Or
something.
a tiger. I went there. Like, yeah, no, our ass is grass. We'd be lunch.
Yeah,
So anyway, shall we wrap it up? It
let
looks like
us.
it's that time. We've been going for a while, folks. 1 hour and 32 minutes.
Yeah,
Any closing thoughts?
probably.
Give us one, John.
Oh God, I think I've told this one. Why don't koala bears, why aren't they considered actual bears?
In the
They
comments.
don't, oh yeah, maybe someone knows it.
Wrong answers only in the comments.
Please.
All right. We love you guys. This has been another episode of the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers.
Bye.